What skills do you need to become an entrepreneur? Well, there are plenty of universities that now offer degrees in entrepreneurship, and I can tell you that none of my entrepreneur friends and colleagues have ever studied a degree in entrepreneurship. So let's just remember that as we go through now. So an entrepreneur is a very lonely individual because very often an entrepreneur sees things that a lot of other people don't. They look for opportunities everywhere, and failure goes hand in hand with their resilience. So, I've been in businesses. I've been involved in business since 2004. I remember one of my very first businesses, I got a loan from the Prince's Trust for £1,500. And I created a martial arts school. And that school was sort of successful in the sense of we had students, we taught a lot of people jiu-jitsu, which is the martial art that I trained in, Japanese jiu-jitsu. And I got to work with some organizations around the world teaching jiu-jitsu. So it was great in terms of it kept my interest, it kept me physically fit. I was doing sort of sometimes 3-4 classes per day. And I was able to travel to some parts of the world that I'd never seen before. Some of them weren't very pretty parts of the world because it was usually places with conflict. But I did get to see a lot of things, and I repaid my £1,500 loan and managed to get a driving license and a passport, which might sound like really trivial things. But when you consider the context for me, I'd come from a council estate where my parents didn't have a passport, my parents didn't have a driver's license, we didn't own our own home, and nobody I knew worked for themselves. Everybody sort of, had a job or had zero job at all, including their siblings, including their mums and dads. So even if you had a job, you were onto a good start. So for me, getting a passport was impossible because it was like, I think at the time it was like £55, which you just couldn't afford £55, just as simple as that. I was in uni studying psychology at the University of Liverpool, and I was living in a bedsit. So, 50 quid wasn't really an option for me. So I ended up dropping out of university to open up my martial arts school, and it paid off. And I ended up going to work in the security sector and got a career out of that. Started training people in security many years later in 2008. And some of those businesses failed. I don't have the martial arts business anymore. And by the way, shout out to my good friend Dervish, who has a successful martial arts business. So much respect to him, because I know how hard it is to maintain a successful martial arts business. So Dervish, well done, mate. A little shout out to him. No, he isn't sponsoring it, but he does have a book that is out. And I am going to give him a shout out. I did buy his book. I'm just going to tell you the title of it now. How to Build a Highly Profitable Martial Arts School, and it's by Dervish. I recommend the book. I have, in fact, bought it. I have read through. I think I'm up to chapter 26. There's about 50 chapters in it. Dervish went mental, but an absolutely solid bloke and well worth reading his book. In fact, actually, we can get a link from Amazon. You can actually buy his book. It's not an affiliate link. I'm just trying to help out a friend because it's not just about a martial arts school. It's about business in general. So that business of mine didn't go anywhere beyond 2007, but I ended up working in the security sector and got a lot of work from that. And then obviously, well, not obviously, but ended up going into security training and did that for 4 years very successfully until we got involved with government funding. And if you want to see some real criminals, the education sector, government-funded education sector, some of the crookedest crooks around are in the education sector. The amount of corruption we saw in that particular sector was unreal, and still to this day goes on. If you ever wonder where your tax money goes, that's one place I would start looking. if you're going to ever employ a Doge minister like they talk about here in the UK. So that business ended up failing. After 4 years, I went to work for some other people, got myself a pub that ended up failing. So the point is, entrepreneurship is really, failing is part of the process. You have to fail a few times, because when I say fail, I mean financially the business was not successful, but from a perspective of what have I now learned, wow, those lessons will blow your mind. There's things that they don't teach you in textbooks. I went to university again, and I studied leadership and management at a senior level, so level 7 masters. And yes, we did lots of theoretical models. We did stuff about change theory. We did stuff about improvement, business improvement techniques. But one of the things we don't teach is resilience. We can't teach it. It's the secret sauce, You either have it or you don't, really. And for me, when the business financially fails, I remember even now today in 2012, when our training company failed financially and it was made insolvent, that absolutely crucified me. And we went to see the insolvency practitioner, of course, and we go through it. And I was broken, absolutely broken. And at the time, I was in a relationship with somebody, and they took great delight in torturing me over this as well. Haha, you're a failure, you're nothing but a failure, and all this sort of quite nasty stuff. But to be able to bounce back from that took a long time. It wasn't until sort of 2015 when I bought actually I think it was late 2014, I bought a pub, which again ended up going the way the pubs mainly go, because it's very difficult to run pubs. And that went, and then I sort of decided, after reading a book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss, I decided, I'm going to set up my own consultancy practice, which I did, which is still going to this day, And that consultancy practice earned me enough to have a comfortable living, which I was really happy with. And Better Safety still thrives today. If you need construction consultancy advice, Better Safety, you can go there. You'll find me. That's my training. That's my consultancy service. I'm happy to work with people in the construction, in the factory or manufacturing space, and general health and safety. That's been going since that time. And then when you meet the right partner, it could be business partner, it could be intimate partner. I'm talking about intimate partner now. I met my now version 2, the love of my life, Rachel. When I met her, when something just clicks, you can't explain it. There's no book you can go and read about it. It just clicks. And, to have this person in your life as your cheerleader, there's no book that I've read, academic or otherwise, which talks about the value, the importance of that cheerleader enough. Stop! Before you go any further, if you're enjoying this content, remember to give us a subscribe, a like, a follow, or a share. Every single person that clicks on those buttons, it means the world to us, because it helps us reach more people and get people educated in how to get wealth the lazy way. As an entrepreneur, you are incredibly lonely. Very often, your kids don't understand why you can't see them. Your partner might not understand why you want to work on a Saturday night and they want to go out and go to a party with friends. As an entrepreneur, you are singularly focused on what you're trying to achieve. And having somebody there in the background who understands that, who is willing to accept that, because they can see the effort, the love, the passion that you have for that thing, that is worth a lot more than what people give credit for. And I found that. I had that. I still do have that. So I found somebody, I can go to my wife today and say, listen, love, I've come up with this crazy idea. We're going to invest 30 grand in this thing. And she'd be like, oh my God, not another crazy idea. And that'll be the end of the conversation, and then we'll talk about it later on. It's not a permission conversation. It's a just to let you know conversation. But equally, though, she'll say, just to let you know, I'm thinking about going on holiday with my sister. so she'll have her just to let you know conversations as well, which, of course, she's absolutely welcome to do so. I wouldn't want to go on holiday with her sister. No way. She's very brave. So finding that cheerleader is so very important. So find yourself your cheerleader. Finding yourself your thick skin. When you work for other people, let's say you work in sales. When you work in the sales department, you know, there's lots of different strategies that people will teach you about sales, and they'll teach you, about handling rejection, overcoming rejection, even more important, and converting that frown upside down and turn it into a smile. That's great. At the end of the day, you still get paid. Whether you convert them or you don't convert them, you still get paid, and you might get some commission, but you will have a basic lifeline, a basic life support that will give you a basic salary. When you're an entrepreneur and you're working for yourself, there is no basic life support. There is no basic salary. There is just you make money or you starve. And I still remember when I set up my very first martial arts school business back in 2004. It was July. And I went around, I paid for, I think it was 1,000 flyers, and I distributed them all around the local area, saying, jiu-jitsu school opening in this area in Wirral. And the day it opened, I had 9 students. Oh my God. They paid £2 to come, so it was £18, and the hall was costing me 20. And then I had 2 adult students on the class afterwards, and they were paying £3.50, so £7. So I managed to make a whole £25.50, and the whole cost me £20. I made £5.50 on that night. I'd already paid for the insurance, which was 70 quid. I made £5.50 profit on that night, and oh my God, it could have been £1 million. I mean, £5.50. I know that's not a lot of money. It doesn't even buy you a hot chocolate and Costa Coffee these days. But for me, that was the social proof that I need to continue, that showed me that people actually wanted to come. And at one point we had 4 classes a week running, both children's and adults. So it was like, I think we had 7 classes in total. And I then started to work for organizations as well, because they wanted me to go and do seminars for them and so on and so forth. So that was really cool. And then ended up in the security sector, and that just skyrocketed what I was trying to achieve. But that first £5.50, no feeling like it, honestly. When you get your first profit, doesn't matter whether it's £1. When you make your first profit, it's like a dopamine hit that you'd never ever forget. And I was hooked. I was hooked on being an entrepreneur. I was hooked on being a business owner. And that was that. And now here we are, fast forward to 2025, multiple property businesses, multiple care businesses, multiple consultancy businesses, podcast show, turning over, several £1 million a year across the group, millions of pounds in assets. From what? Me? And version number 2, Rachel, my wife. That's it. That's what we had to start with. And we both took out a loan. Me from the COVID-19 loan, I think it's called C-bills, and she took out a business loan under the British Bank, the entrepreneurs scheme. 45 grand is what it cost us to set everything up between us, and here we are today. So, cheers. So, other things you need to be an entrepreneur. When you first start out, if it's just you, you're probably going to need a wing, a prayer, a cheerleader, a little bit of technology now, a laptop, and a couple of quid worth of seed money, a couple of pounds seed money. When I first set up my health and safety consultancy, I was on a really good salary at the time. I quit. And I remember even now, I remember getting a call. I'd registered the business and I'd put it on Google. First time ever I'd put a business on Google. And I was getting calls left, right, and centre. Oh, my God. And it was all sales calls, of course. And this guy phones me up and he says, Carl, I'm such and such. I've actually probably still got his email. Such and such. How would you like to be getting all kinds of inquiries and being number one on Google for your chosen specialism, health and safety? I was like, wow, that sounds amazing, mate. Yeah, of course I want to do that. And he says, right, okay then. So for £200 a month, we are going to get you set up. I think it was a £250 setup fee and then £200 a month. And he was going to get me to number one on Google. Social media is going to get me all of this attention and my phone wouldn't stop ringing from all the sales. Month one, nothing. Oh, well, that's normal. You know, digital marketing takes a bit of time to get ranked and blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. I can understand that. Month number two, I phone him up, say, look, dude, you know, £600 in now, because don't forget the VAT. Nearly £600 in now, we've got nothing, and I've only got £1,000 marketing budget, bear in mind. And he says, oh yeah, you know, well, I don't understand why, mate. He said, you've had 600,000 impressions and you've had, let's say, 20,000 clicks on your website. And I'm like, where? I can't see any of this. And he's like, oh yeah, they're there. And I said, can you send me a screenshot? And they sent me like some dodgy looking Excel spreadsheet. Needless to say, of course, it was a complete scam. So I guess the lesson for entrepreneurs is there's going to be loads of people out there when you set up your business, when you register with Companies House, when you put yourself on Google. Your phone is not going to stop ringing from people who want money off of you, okay? So they're going to want to promote your business on this platform, that platform, the other platform. They're going to try and tell you they're going to get you number one in Google. They're going to get you all these ads and leads in Facebook. I'm going to give you some advice. Don't give them your money. A lot of this stuff you can do for free. Google will teach you, because there's an actual training program that Google give you for free to teach you how to get into Google, to be ranked, Google My Business, and where you can be found on Google Maps. They will teach you how to do it for free. That's number one. The second thing is, if you do have a website, most website platform providers now, WordPress, Squarespace, people like this, even Shopify, those sorts of people, they will show you how to rank for your particular product or service or niche. They will show you how to do that for free. So don't go around giving your money away to these people. They will take your money and take and take and take, especially these guys, because very often keyword generation, the stuff that you want to get found for, that takes time, and that could take a year to perfect it, to get it right. And by that time, you're bankrupt because you've given all this money to all these SEO and digital marketing experts and Google rankers and social media people that will promote you on social media. And you've got all of this social media presence and all this Google presence and no money. So as an entrepreneur, you need to understand that your phone is going to ring non-stop with people trying to take money off you and not necessarily give you value back. So digital marketing, digital media, SEO, it's not like physical products and services, right? So if you want me to design and give you some business cards, there's something tangible there, okay? So you give me £500, I will give you 5,000 cards with a logo printed with your name on it and whatever else you want. And the delivery date will be at some point in the future that we both agree, and everybody's happy. And at the end of the date, you either have the stuff or you don't have the stuff. If you have the stuff and you're happy, great relationship. If you have the stuff and you're not happy, you might go back to them and say, look, you spelt my name wrong, or, there's not the right quality, whatever, and then you can fix it. Or it could not show up, in which case that's bad. Then you can, lodge a complaint and get your money back. Digital marketing, nope, doesn't work that way. Oh, well, it's going to take at least 6 months to get you ranked, and it's going to take this much to get the SEO optimized on your webpage, and your H1 tags are all wrong, and your H3 tags are all wrong, and your Hrefs aren't lining up where we've done a Moz audit on your account. If I'm talking in a language you don't understand, that's because it all happened to me, so I'm getting my own back on you now, okay? I understand this language now. I went back and studied how to do this, and we are ranked in the first page in Google for all of our businesses that we want to be ranked for. We don't need anybody's help. Thank you very much. So we're already ranked because I understand it now. Because when I first became an entrepreneur and I thought, oh, this is great, they're going to help me with all my socials and they're going to help me with all my Google. They didn't. They just took my money and took my money and took my money. So don't give your money away unless you fully understand the thing that you're buying and it's got an assurance with it. So having that thick skin, listening to the words no a lot, going to networking meetings. So when I first started, I went to a BNI meeting in my local area, my local chapter, and it was a morning session. And if any of you have ever been to BNI, it's quite well structured. You know, you go there, everybody gets sort of 30 seconds to say what they do and who they're looking for. And they have a business focus, business spotlight for a business of the month. And you get to tell a little bit more about your business. So I went to that chapter. And to be honest, I still know people from that BNI chapter who has given work to me and I've given work to them. So does BNI work? I think, yes, it does. There are some disadvantages, though. If you do join BNI as a full member of the chapter, you're basically the sales and marketing agent, or at least the marketing agent, for everybody else in that chapter. But likewise, they're the marketing agent for you as well. And they are targeted on that. So they have to make so many referrals a month. They have to get so much business in per month and so on and so forth. So I actually think there's a bit of value to go into the likes of BNI. It is a bit expensive if you first start out. I think it's about £1,000 there or thereabouts. But the advantage is that you're with other business owners in the room. So there's that. And then there's the social aspect of it because you're meeting people who are also business owners. Usually, some people send their staff to BNI, which isn't ideal because you really want to be talking to the business owners. However, it's a great environment for you to meet people. So if you are interested in joining BNI, again, they're not sponsoring this podcast, but have a look at the link below to find your local chapter and get in touch with them. If you're a new business, it might be worthwhile doing. You can also attend lots of free business networking events through the local Chamber of Commerce, which, again, it's business owners. Now, the thing is, when I say business owners, you know, some people will be thinking about big house, Ferrari, swimming pool, horse and stables, private jets everywhere. Sure, there are some business owners that meet that profile, but many business owners are, you know, one employee, which is themselves. There might be a financial advisor or a mortgage broker or a graphic designer, and it's just them on their own, okay? So many of them, you know, they've become a business owner and they've swapped their 9 to 5 to be their own boss to earn 30 grand a year in their own business, and they're happy. So I just want to manage your expectation. If you want to meet somebody who's going to, you know, potentially give you a £3 million contract, that might not be the right room for you, but it certainly gets you in a room where you can try out your elevator pitch. It's a room where you can try and build your social skills, your social networking skills. So I have autism, and autism makes me socially awkward. And it's really important that when I'm in a room, I will spend about an hour to an hour and a half before I go to the room practicing potential questions people are going to ask me. I will work on my eye contact. How long should I look at this person? What things are appropriate to say, what things are inappropriate to say. I remember once I went to a networking event. Oh, dear me. I said to this lady, I said, oh, you know, we're talking about business. What do you do? What do you do? And I just got a whiff of her hair. I said, oh, your hair smells lovely. And she gave me the death glare. And then she just walked off. And I was like, I wonder what just happened. And I went home and told my version number one, my wife number one, said, this is what happened. And version number one went crazy on me, said I was flirting with her and was trying to sleep with her. And after she finished saying that, also said, well, you shouldn't be talking to other women like that. And I was like, why? I don't understand. In my head, I was trying to pay a compliment and I didn't understand it. So if you got autism and you want to work in business, it's an interesting day in the office. You've got to be surrounded by people that will shield you from your own social awkwardness, let's call it. of which I am incredibly socially awkward. So I have to find my tribe of people who understand that sometimes I say inappropriate things. I swear quite a lot when I'm not on a live YouTube channel. And I also say things which could make people go, "Ugh," but in a genuine way, which you might not get it at first, but by the end of it, you'll remember that story for that reason. And then that's the goal of the presentation, really. So going to these networking events, you need to do that. You need to build your social skills and your social rapport and get to learn how to make eye contact, learn how to say, yes, I'd love a cup of tea, even if you don't want a cup of tea. Learn to say, oh, yes, I do follow football, even if you don't follow football, because the more you have in congruence with people, in commonality with them, the more willing they are to talk to you. But when I started out, I was like, no, thanks, I don't drink. And then people would go and have a drink and I would just be left on my own because, I didn't understand it was part of the social dance. People say, oh, are you a red or are you a blue? Because they can hear my Merseyside twang. I say, neither, I don't like football. And they go, oh, okay. And then they walk off and somewhere else. So I'm closing down invitations without actually meaning to. I'm actually not a red or a blue, but what I do now is if someone says, oh, are you a red or are you blue? I say, well, it depends which one's your favourite. And then we have a joke about it. And then I'll say, to be honest, I'm not really a fan of football, but I do enjoy the conversation about it. And people will go, oh, right. And then I'm giving them permission to carry on talking about football with me. I have no clue about football, by the way. I'm not a football fan. But that's just a little trick that I learned as I made all of these mistakes along my entrepreneurship journey. And I guess understanding money. You have to know the difference between income, gross profit, net profit, and cash flow. If you say to me, Carl, I've just got this amazing order for 10,000 Lazy Wealth cups and they're going to pay me £100,000. I say, fantastic. Have they given you any money? No. Okay. Have they signed a letter of intent? No. Have they got a contract? No. Right. So in your head, you've already spent the £100,000. You've already spent that money. That's gone in your head, right? You're buying new machines. You're going to upgrade your workshop. You're going to take on an apprentice. All of the things that go on in your head. But actually what you've got is zero. And what you've got is a hope, a wing, a prayer, and a wish. That's what you've actually got. And they all add up to the same thing, which is zero. You cannot pay your bills with, I would like to maybe buy some stuff. The only way you can pay your bills is with cash in the bank or with a line of credit that you have access to. Okay? So cash flow is absolutely the most critical thing in your business because let us say that you've got cash coming in. This actually happened to me in one of our businesses very recently. We were owed £240,000 by one client. And we sent off our invoice and the client made a mistake on their accountancy side of things, which delayed our invoice being paid. Our staff get paid on the last working day of the month, and they didn't pay us. So we had to find a way to get the money to the staff without actually being paid ourselves because we had no cash. We had no cash flow from what the client should have paid us. That was a dark day for us because these are the things as an entrepreneur, you're like, well, you've got to put safeguards in place. But actually, some clients are on what we call the race to the bottom. They want to pay the very bottommost price because they claim how poor they are and how skint they are. Like Tesco's does a few billion in profit, but they don't tell the dairy farmers that, So Tesco's, we can't afford to pay proper prices for milk, because we're so skint. And they make billions every year. So they're on the race to the bottom. They pay us so poorly, it's very difficult to manage cash flow. And I've had conversations with their directors, of their service, and they go, oh yeah, we know, and they deflect everything. Oh, money's tight everywhere. And I'm like, no, you're just not paying us properly. You're not paying us the bare minimum that we need to survive as a business, and that's your fault. And they don't like that straight talk, and that's the autism again. Or maybe it's just common sense, who knows. But having a strong sense of cash flow, having that money in the bank and saying, actually, do I leave this money in the bank or do I spend it? And then looking into that future of your cash flow statements and going, actually, I've got this bill coming out, that bill coming out, that bill coming out. I can't afford to leave that cash. I can't afford to spend that cash on the thing I would like to buy right now. I'm going to wait until I have got another payment in, and then I'll go buy that thing I want. Now, here's a trick for you to remember. There's lots of knowledge-based training companies out there who will give you training on stuff, and they will create a false sense of scarcity. What I mean by that is they'll phone you up, or you'll attend a course of theirs, and they'll say, oh, you're on this course now, but we've got a special offer only for today only. If you sign up now, it's got to be today, no other day, only today. It's only going to cost you, I don't know, $3,997. Just the figure I've made up. But tomorrow, it's going back up to 10 grand. So, of course, you're like, oh my God, 3,997 or 10 grand, 3,997 or 10 grand. And you're looking at your cash flow. And I've done this, by the way. You're looking at your cash flow going, I can't really afford to spend this money, this 3,997 they're asking for today, because the invoice that's due in hasn't arrived yet and I've got these bills to pay. What do I do? So they encourage you to spend your money, of course, that's their sales practice. And then, you could end up stuck holding the bucket for this, the holy bucket. So do be careful out there, guys. There's plenty of sharks in this water that you need to be very mindful of. And I guess the other skill for entrepreneurship would be, I think customer delight and communication are something that go hand in glove. So understanding your customer. What problem does your customer have that you are helping them to solve? That's ultimately what you're trying to do, right? When you're in business, when you're an entrepreneur, you are trying to think about what is it that you have that is a problem in your life that I could solve for you. So, how do I get takeaways reliably to my house when all of the takeaways have got really unreliable drivers? Along comes Just Eat and absolutely decimates that market. I know Uber Eats is in the market and Deliveroo is in the market now, but in our house, when we're talking about a takeaway, we go, did somebody say? Exactly, exactly what you just said. So we understand that there was a need in that market, like taxi drivers. Smelly, dirty car, stinks of smoke. The guy's rude, or the girl is rude, usually guys. If they turn up at all, if they turn up on time, you're phoning them up and they're 20 minutes, and it never shows, and then you're late for the party. And then along comes Uber and says, not only are our cars going to be exceptionally clean, and you're going to be able to vote on this and vote on the driver's attitude and behavior and the car itself and the journey, but also we're going to tell you how far away the car is. We're going to say to you the car's 5 minutes away, and that allows you to manage expectations. Like, oh, the car's 5 minutes away. I'll just go and nip the loo quick. I'll just go and let the dog out. I'll just go and brush my teeth one last time because I had garlic bread before. Whatever it is that you're thinking about, you've got that 5 minutes to go and do the thing without the taxi beeping for you outside. So Uber solved that problem for people looking to get transport from point A to point B. And then you come on to things like knowledge. Now, there's tons of online coaches and business mentors out there. I'm a business coach. I'm a business mentor. You can find me below. There's a link to my website, carl-mannion.com. I give people help, advice and guidance about how to run their business, how to do acquisitions in business, and how to develop property portfolios. That's what I do. So if you want to get in touch with me about that, you can do that below. But how do you separate what's going to be a good product or a good service from a bad product or a bad service? It's really difficult. Some people rely heavily on reviews, but those reviews can be tainted and manipulated, of course. So having that customer delight, how do we ensure customer delight? I would recommend testimonials, not just written testimonials, but video testimonials as well. And the more genuine the testimonial environment, the better. So if someone's just writing a testimonial on Facebook and you see they've got one friend, probably it's a fake Facebook account. If somebody's got 300 friends and they've written 14 reviews for other services, good, bad, and indifferent, and they write a great one about you, that gives you a lot of social trust, social proof. So getting those testimonials is awesome. And every time you do a great job, asking a customer for a testimonial, so critical. And always making sure the customer is happy with the experience. It's not just about the exchange of, money for product or service. It's about the experience as well. So, I can pay money to go on my train from Wirral to Liverpool. And it's really expensive, much more expensive than what it used to be. It's like nearly £6, I think now, return. So I go on the train, I go downstairs, and the train tunnel is really clean. The passenger corridor is really clean and tidy. But then the thing comes on, bing bong, 3 o'clock. What the hell is that? I don't know what he's talking about or she's talking about. Because they haven't upgraded the speaker system. It sounds crazy, right? Everything's immaculate, everything's clean, but I don't know what they're saying. So that dilutes the customer experience. It dilutes the customer delight. It could have been a really important message, could have been a sales message. I don't know. All I know is I didn't hear it. So the customer delight, it wasn't there. And then finally getting onto that communication. When you are an entrepreneur, communicating is a skill that you're going to need at multiple levels. So I used to have one boss when I worked for a company. Now I have hundreds of bosses. I have managers who work for me, who I have to communicate with, and I have to listen to all of their gripes, all of their issues, and all of the wins that they have as well, which is always great. Then I have lots of care staff, lots of administrators, lots of property people, lots of maintenance people, and then I have lawyers that I have to listen to, I have accountants I have to listen to, and then I have my wife that I have to listen to, and then I have the actual customer who pays our money, and I have the client who may not be the customer, because the client is the person receiving the service, the customer is the one paying for the service, if that makes sense. So it might be that the local authority pay us to provide care to the client who doesn't contribute to the cost of care. And interestingly, what I found in my experience is the clients who don't contribute to anything are the ones who tend to complain the most. So they may not have any payments towards the cost of care at all, zero, but they will be the ones that will phone up when the carer is 5 minutes late. They will be the ones who complain that the carer only put one sugar in the tea, or they left the microwave door open before they left the house, or stuff that's sort of relatively petty. However, customer delight kicks in. It's like, well, it doesn't matter whether they're paying for the service themselves or if somebody else is paying for them. The customer delight, the customer experience is such that we didn't get the tea and the sugar right. We didn't put the microwave door right. They did arrive 5 minutes late. So we still have to treat that why did that happen, just as equally as if somebody was paying privately for the cost of care themselves as a private customer. But what we find, conversely, the private customers are the ones who don't complain at all. And they also stay with us the longest, which is really quite interesting. So something that you have to understand about how people work on an emotional, psychological and behavioral level is their experience of what customer delight looks like is very different to the other person who is getting completely funded, completely free care. So that's something for you to consider as an entrepreneur. And then finally, once you've managed to overcome the first 2.5 years worth of business woe, and you've managed to survive by hook or by crook, you might start taking on some staff. When you take on staff, that's got its own set of personalities, its own set of rules. So you then have to develop processes, procedures. You have to maybe get an HR arm to your business, whether you buy that in as a service from somebody else or whether you hire somebody yourself, it's up to you. And you have to start working to rules. And as an entrepreneur, of course, you're used to working outside the rules. So you're used to finding solutions to problems. And now all of a sudden, you're bound by process A and process B. So for example, let us pretend that you have a worker who works for you, who has worked for you for 2 months, and then has gone off on the sick with mental health. And then you go see them on social media, they've gone to Disneyland. And then you see them on a night out, on a Friday night or a Saturday night. And then you see them, you know, going out, having a nice time with their kids while you're in work and everybody else is in work. Instinctively, you might think as an entrepreneur, I want to fire that person like straight away, immediately, absolutely zero, you know, tolerance for that sort of stuff. But then your process, your HR team come in and go, sorry, mate, you can't do that. You're like, what? And your vein bulges out your neck. Like, what do you mean you can't do that? It's clear that they're, you know, taking the mick out of me. And they're like, yeah, that might be the case. But they've got a fit note from a doctor. And the doctor hasn't even bloody seen them. The doctor's seen them at a telephone consultation. And this is month 3 of sick notes now, you know. And you're getting like all twitchy about it. And they've hit you for 1,500 quid's worth of sick leave at the time because they can have up to 6 months paid statutory sick pay, right? And then miraculously on the 6th month, they'll say, oh, I'm ready to come back to work now, right? So you have to manage the process of that person exiting your business in the correct way, or you could face a lawsuit. You could face them claiming some form of discrimination if there's a mental health problem, perhaps. But as an entrepreneur, of course, you're not thinking about following processes and procedures. You're just going, this person is lying. I need to get rid of them. And I'll tell you, this is a true story. I had this one lady who worked for us in one of our offices, and she was a carer, and she was due to start work on Sunday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. And at 5:30 in the morning, mum phones up. This is a 28-year-old woman, by the way, but the mum phones up and says she can't come into work. She's had to get rushed to hospital. She's on life support. Oh my God, you know, that's really serious. And my wife is talking to the woman on the phone, and I'm like, whoa, I'm wide awake here. Because it's 5:30 in the morning, right? And I'm like, no, wait, give me the phone, because I already know this has happened 2 times before. So I'm like, okay, is everything okay? Yeah, she needed her stomach pumped. She's on oxygen. I was like, stomach pumped and on oxygen? Something's not quite right here. So I said, okay, fair enough. Thanks for letting me know. What hospital is she in? And the woman went, what? I said, the hospital. What hospital has she gone to? I'm just going to check she's okay. And I can't say exactly what the woman said, the mum, but she said something along the lines of, it sounds like you don't believe me. My daughter works bleep, 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 very hard for you, bleep, 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 goodbye, and then hung up. So I'm now wide awake. Adrenaline is coursing through my veins. And I said, right, I'm going to go to this girl's house and I'm going to see what's going on. So I drove 45 minutes down the road because that's how crazy I am. I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm like, okay, let's see. This woman's on life support, right? I drove down to her house, and outside her house are loads of balloons. 18 today, all over, the decorations and everything. And outside, they're still outside partying, drinking beers. They've had a barbecue from the night before. And I just walk very politely in and say, hello, I'm looking for the name of the lady. And he went, yeah, I'll just go and get her. And I saw her in the kitchen window running, so she couldn't be seen. I saw her there. And he came out, the young lad, he was only 17, and he said, she's not here, mate, she's in hospital. I said, so you went in to check if she's there, but she was in hospital? And he went, yeah, she's on life support. The life support? Because I could have sworn I'd just seen her there. And he went, no, that wasn't her. So I phoned up my HR people who weren't open because it was a Sunday. And I fired her anyway. I fired her without approval. And the HR people went mad on me on the Monday. They said to me, Carl, you haven't followed the right processes. You haven't followed the right procedures. I said, listen to me. I said, I saw it with my own eyes. I got recording of the whole situation. I got the voice record of the mum lying about where she is, and I'm not having it. She's gone. I said, do whatever you want, but she's gone. And like, oh, well, we can't, do anything. We just, if she brings a claim up against you, then, we can't support the claim. You'd have to pay for that. I'm like, I don't care. She's gone. And I did, because I'm crazy. And, I've learned differently now. We have to follow the process. But back then, I was so angry that this person had clearly lied to us. And then what made it worse is a couple of weeks later, when her final payslip came in, she sent me this really long message saying, you owe me 35 days 35 days holiday pay. I said, what are you talking about? She said, I'm going to come to the office and smash it up unless you pay me my 35 days holiday. And I went back and had a look at her payslip. It was 35 hours. I said, nobody gets paid 35 days holiday unless you work for the NHS or the government. Okay? No one. I said, so you got 35 hours and that's what you've been paid. And then she never bothered us again. So as an entrepreneur, when you grow, when you develop, when you get bigger and you start hiring people, you need to be thinking about processes, procedures, and systems, and actually do take the advice of the professionals that are surrounding you, because they will save your bacon. We have had people who have tried to sue us when we've terminated their employment, and they have gone absolutely nowhere. So that's something worth considering. But that's a little bit in the future when you're successful and you've started hiring your own staff. So I hope those little pieces have been useful for you if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or even a solopreneur, to build up your resilience, to start networking, not be afraid to be the dumbest person in the room, making sure that you don't get people taking money off you, keeping your eye on cash flow, the most important financial metric for you to worry about for the short term, and then, of course, following those processes and procedures. If you are an entrepreneur and you want to know more about how we can help you, you can just click on us below, carl-mannion.com. Have a look. If it's something that you think we could help you with, give us a call. If not, don't worry, we're still going to be friends. I hope that's been useful. Subscribe to the channel. Share it with your friends who are also entrepreneurs. Share it with your BNI network. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.